Okay, guys, this is episode 750. I have made 750 videos about Cardano to commemorate this benchmark, which I honestly never thought we would reach. But to commemorate this benchmark, I'm going to propose that we acknowledge some harsh realities and embrace a new paradigm. We have to acknowledge that a lot of crypto is just some bullshit we made up. A lot of crypto is fake. We have to acknowledge that a lot of crypto is some fake bullshit we made up. But we can fix this. We can fix this by embracing a new paradigm. That new paradigm is one of real transactions executed. If you were already ready to move on from the days of yield farming animal coins, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining. So, first of all, let me just remind everybody, I mentioned this on X, but I'm not going to censor myself for this video. This is probably going to be the most important video I do this month. You know, probably the most important video I do during this entire time since I've been back. So I'm not going to censor myself. So I know a few people like to listen to these videos on the way to dropping the kids off at school and the carpool. So if you're in that camp, just turn this one off. If you are going to be worried about language, just turn this one off. This is not the one for the carpool. So that disclaimer out of the way. Let's see what we got here. Emilio's here. Let's go, Emilio. Dunky Ned, Eric Williams, 8 Eclipse, Jay Van Overbeck is here. Daniil's here. Jordan for America's here. Neo Chad's here. Jay Marie's here. Ola Rulo. Mission Zambia is here. Brian Packard's here. Thomas Kirkpatrick's here. Afro in the Wind's here. Jose's here. D.U is here. James is here. Lone Eagle. I Can't Even's here. Bindo Cam's here. At Cardano. Dr. Toke. Tulane Tulip. And Otis Fritjov. Okay. Okay. DIY 10K's here. Okay. Let's get to it. Don't ask me why the comments are so big. This is StreamYard doing some wild stuff to us. So here's what I want to talk about. We've been through some eras in crypto. We've done some things, right? Everybody read the fucking white paper and got super excited. It captured the imagination of a huge number of people. They read that white paper. They were like, I have no idea who this Satoshi is, but this is goddamn captivating. What if the central banks couldn't mess around with our money anymore? What if we had our own money and it wouldn't get fucking debased by all these governments? That's what captivated everybody's imagination in the beginning. And that went on for quite a while. It started out small, 2009. Only a few people even knew about Bitcoin. We still have no idea who created it. We know who was around in those early days. Some of those early cypherpunk guys were around. They were it. And then the Wired article comes out and more people read the white paper. Everybody gets really excited. People are coming up to you in the bar. Have you fucking heard about this Bitcoin thing? People are super excited. More and more people, it grows virally. Just the idea, like understanding that our money is constantly getting debased, that those savings we had in the bank are worth less all the time because of manipulation by central banks. This idea, of course, is going to grow virally. Then we get this innovation, the second generation of crypto. Ethereum comes along and says, hey, what if this was a little bit programmable? What if we had these things called smart contracts? Probably not the most descriptive name. Probably should have been called smart locks. Other people have argued that before. Smart escrows, whatever you want to call it. Smart contracts is an okay name, but maybe not the most descriptive. Whatever. Second generation comes along. all of a sudden, a couple years after the second generation, we have this explosion of ICOs. And a lot of the ICOs were good, but we started doing a lot of bullshit, right? People realized, wait a second. I can have my own crypto. I can do my own bullshit and people will give me money for it. They'll give me Bitcoin or Ethereum for my fucked up coin I invented. This is great. Let me do that like thousands of times. And so thousands of dudes created these bullshit coins and we bought a lot of them. The 2017 ICO craze was great if you were one of those guys creating all those bullshit coins. The public largely got left holding the bag. People lost huge amounts of money, but it was just like the casino. You go to the casino to live out your dreams, to imagine that you might have bought the golden ticket. You might have bought into the good ICO where you made all the money. And sometimes we did, like Cardano. Cardano comes along during this ICO craze. It's, you know, at first people are calling it the Ethereum of Japan, whatever. A bunch of guys in Japan and other parts of Asia, they buy into Cardano because it does represent something novel and unique. It's not just another bullshit ICO. It's Gen 3. It's like, hey, why don't we have the innovation of a hard capped asset and we'll also do the expressiveness that they did in Ethereum, but it'll be proof of stake. So we get rid of all the arguments about, you know, destroying the planet and it not being green, all the problems with proof of work related to energy consumption. You can feel however you want to feel about that. But Gen 3 got rid of all those problems because now we're doing proof of stake and we don't have warehouses full of ASICs, right? We're not Eric Trump in the warehouse in Texas with rows and rows and rows of hardware, which is also fine. I don't want Bitcoin to ever do anything different than that. I think it's great. Bitcoin can do that. So now we're to 2017. We've got Gen 3 now. We've got proof of stake, smart contracts, hard capped currency. What do we do with it? What do we do with it for the next 8 years? A bunch of bullshit. We make more and more fake bullshit with it, right? There have been good things. We did some good things too. Some good things have been done, but it was a lot of bullshit. The same guys who did all the bullshit ICOs in 2017, they sort of turned around. They're reincarnated into different guys. Sometimes it was exactly the same guys. And they were like, oh, I can just do exactly the same thing with PFP NFTs, with meme coins. Oh, and now we've got this thing called DeFi. And there's nothing wrong with DeFi. DeFi itself is necessary for us to do all the good stuff, right? DeFi is necessary for us to do all the good stuff. We need to be able to swap tokens. We need to be able to exchange these currencies between each other. We need to do all that. But we have been doing the wrong shit with it. We've been doing all the bullshit with all the DeFi platforms. The people who built DeFi, God bless them. We needed those DeFi platforms. We need to be able to make loans. We need to be able to provide liquidity to markets. We need to be able to swap tokens between each other. What did we do with it? We traded a bunch of bullshit back and forth, a bunch of animal coins that nobody gives a fuck about. Go out on the street, mention your favorite animal coin to the average person walking down the street. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about your animal coin. It's fine. It's fine if you're one of the people who did the animal coin thing. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to create a little community where you guys have your own currency, that's totally fine, right? You can do that, but it's some bullshit. And it's time for us to let go of all these childish things, right? They can still exist. People can do all the bullshit in crypto they want. It has to be permissionless. Crypto has to be permissionless. That's part of the magic. Part of the magic is that it's permissionless. So we have to let people do the bullshit. Should that be the main focus of crypto like it has been for the last 8 years? Fuck no. That's stupid. That's why nobody cares. That's why we lost the masses. That's why we're no longer capturing the imagination of every new person who comes into crypto. The average age of people in crypto, crypto used to be very, very young, right? And Everybody who came into crypto, the second they understood it, they were really excited about it now. Now what we find is young people come into crypto, sort of open that door, they look around, they see a bunch of shady stuff going on, they go back out. They're like, hey, these look like a bunch of penny stocks to me. Can we just, I'll just go do that in the equities markets. The equities markets are much bigger, more liquidity. I'll go do that over there, right? Some of them stay, but it's just a bunch of penny stocks to them. They're like, I'm going to go do that in the penny stock world. That's easier. There's more acceptance, more mainstream. We lost what we had, the ability to capture the imagination of the mainstream. And it's because we're doing all this fake bullshit. Like I said, the fake bullshit has to keep going. The fake bullshit has to keep going because we have to be permissionless. So if somebody wants to do some fake bullshit in crypto, we have to let them. If they want to have an animal coin and create all kinds of, weird DeFi stuff with their animal coin, that's fine. And like I said, it's not the DeFi people's fault. The DeFi people created infrastructure we needed. We've just done a bunch of bullshit with it. So I'm not blaming the DeFi people, but all the people who want to do this bullshit stuff we've been doing for the last 8 years in crypto, it's time for us to, yes, let them do it, but we also need to show them the exit. See this guy walking through the exit? He's walking through the exit to the other side of that wall, right? And he can talk all he wants about total value locked, and his own transaction volume in his animal coin, whatever, on that side of the wall. That's totally fine. That wall is going to be the dividing wall between all the bullshit we've been doing in crypto and the world of real transactions being executed. That's what we're going to do on this side of the wall. We're going to do real world transactions. We're going to execute real world transactions on this side of the wall. And you know why TVL doesn't work for that? Because we don't want to lock the money in crypto. We want the money to interact with the real world. We want to do things like I'm about to show you. We want real world transactions executed. You can denominate that in dollar value, like number of transactions, however you want, but we want to execute real world transactions on the blockchain. We don't want to do the fucking animal coin liquidity providing transactions. Fuck all that. That's some nonsense. We've been nonsense people doing nonsense bullshit for the last 8 years. Let's not do that anymore. Nobody cares. We lost the imagination of the public. The public thinks we're nonsense people now. And you can tell when we look at the market cap of all of crypto. This yellow part up here, you know what that is? That's Bitcoin, right? It still looks interesting, right? Here's 2017, that period we talked about. Bitcoin goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up way higher, then it goes down, and it's still gone up way higher. Then we look at altcoins, right? This is no Bitcoin, no Ethereum. We look down here, what do we see? We got a little bump in 2017. Like I talked about, Gen 3 comes along. That's great. We got another little bump in 2021. Also great. This was the point at which smart contracts came to Cardano. I'm not saying that was, the biggest contributor to this bump, but things were still good up until 2021, right? I mean, things were kind of bad in between 2017 and 2021. But then since 2021, what happened? Not a lot. We never got back up there. Almost, if we take into account all altcoins, we were at like 431 billion. And what was the peak we got up to in February? 350. We never even made it back up to the peak. We lost the public's imagination. Bitcoin didn't. You know what the big difference between Bitcoin and all the altcoins is? You can't do any of this bullshit on Bitcoin. People still trusted Bitcoin. Bitcoin was still fascinating to people because you couldn't do all this bullshit. Sure, people have figured out how to do a little bit of bullshit in Bitcoin, but largely all of the bullshit was happening down here. And that's why it lost the public's imagination. From here to here, from 2021 to 2025, we didn't have the greatest period. Because nobody cared about us anymore. We lost relevancy because we were doing some bullshit with animal coins. We were doing some bullshit with JPEGs of animals. We've just been doing bullshit for the last, definitely the last 4 years, but really, if you think about it, going all the way back here to 2017, we've been doing some bullshit. There was a lot of hope. People still had hope for us in 2021. We still got a good bump in 2021. They were like, it seems like they've been doing some bullshit for the last 4 years, but we still have our high hopes. And then another 4 years of that, we've lost our ability to capture the imagination of the public. So here's what made me think about this today. Here's why I know this is true. So we saw this post, right? So Charles had this video, hang in there, one of his inspirational videos where he's literally just telling people how hopeful the future is. Then somebody posts this, right? And this person was not wrong. I'm not trying to vilify this person. This person was not wrong to post this, right? This person said what everybody in the mainstream would ask who had been around back in the day. What happened to the Ethiopia Project or Banking Africa? He's pointing out exactly what I'm pointing out. Why did we do all this bullshit? What happened to all the cool shit we were going to do? And Charles posts this: over 1 million loans given and coming to Cardano DeFi in 2026. And he posts this great image, RealFi. 1 million loans. You know what these are? These are what's printed on the wall right here. Real transactions executed. Real transactions executed. This is exactly what captures the imagination of the masses, right? You didn't read the Satoshi white paper and say to yourself, I can't wait till we can do a bunch of weird, complicated bullshit with animal coins. You said to yourself, what if we can set up a whole economy on the blockchain and the assets can't be manipulated by central banks? That's what you said to yourself when you read the Satoshi white paper. That's what everybody said to themselves. That's what this is. This is crypto interacting with the real world. These are real world transactions executed. It's not the bullshit we've been doing for the last 8 years. If you go to this website, the RealFi website, I don't know anything about RealFi that you don't know. All I know is what I'm reading on the website and what I've heard Charles say. But look at this: emerging market credit made credible. If you follow this link to the videos, these videos have been on YouTube for a year. These little vignettes they made with Tix the barber and Sammy the grocer. These guys got these loans, and one of them set up a barber shop. In part 2, you see that he's training other barbers to then set up their own barber shops. He got this little micro loan, sets up this barber shop. He goes from having, he says, little tiny chairs to normal size chairs. The barber shop gets better. It's more attractive to the customers. Sammy the grocer talks about starting out with a tiny amount of money, and then he gets the loan and he can buy more goods to have in his little market. He can make the market more attractive to his customers, and his business starts growing. This is real world commerce. This is what we're supposed to be doing on the goddamn blockchain, not all this bullshit we've been doing for the last 8 years. And like I said, it's fine. It's fine if people want to do the bullshit. We're a blockchain. We'll take the transaction volume, right? Those are customers of the blockchain. So we're glad to have them. But that shouldn't be the goddamn focus of everything we're doing. That shouldn't be what we're doing. So this is an important point. I just want to reference this. Also in Charles' video, did he not reference another glacier drop for RealFi? He did. Charles did say there's going to be a glacier drop for RealFi, which I think is great. I was so glad to hear that. This is what we need to be involved in. This is exactly what we need to be involved in. Real world transactions. We need to forget about total value locked. We don't want to lock our value on the blockchain. We want to take our money and have it interacting with the real world. That's why I've tried to say it's a million different ways, but total value locked has always been the wrong metric. Why? Because it encourages you to lock your value on the blockchain. You don't want to lock your value on the blockchain. You want it to interact with the real world through the blockchain. You want to use the blockchain to move your money, to allocate your money more efficiently than you could in the real world. You want to use the blockchain for that reason, not to lock it on the blockchain so you can do a bunch of dumb shit with animal coins. That's stupid. It's a wrong metric. We want to execute real world transactions. We want to maximize RTE, not TVL. This is what we want to do. All the stuff we've been doing is fine. It creates volume on the blockchain. we're glad to have those customers of our blockchain. But that's not the real shit. That's some bullshit we've been doing out of greed and avarice. Why did people buy so many of these stupid casino type projects? All the PFP NFTs, all of the meme coins. Sure, there was a sense of community, and you had that PFP, or when you could say that you had those meme coins. Sure, there's that. There's the camaraderie of being a part of a community. But really, it was the greed and avarice. It was the number goes up thing. You didn't really care as long as number was going to go up. You saw it happen in other cases. You saw other animal coins go to the moon. You saw other NFT projects go to the moon. So you jumped on board out of greed and avarice. It's a normal human thing. We shouldn't pretend like it's not real. It's real. It's a real, normal human thing. We're all subject to it. But that's the bullshit. We got to boot across the wall. We got to send all that to the exit. We have to send all that, all the people doing that. We have to be like, hey, it's fine you're doing that. You're customers of our blockchain, but also please file towards that exit. Go to the other side of the wall. On this side of the wall, we're going to execute real world transactions. You guys over there doing your bullshit, also fine, but do it over there. That's not going to be the focus of all of crypto, because when that's the focus of all of crypto, like it has been for the last 8 years, what happens is we lose our ability to capture the imagination of the masses. Crypto loses its magic when we just do bullshit like that. We need to get back to doing real world stuff. And I think this is a damn good start. This is a damn good start. All of this. You know why? I don't even know much about this. It could turn out that there's something fatally wrong with RealFi for all I know, right? This happens often in crypto. Before something really launches, it sounds great, then it launches and you realize, oh, there's this like fatal flaw to this thing. That could be the case here. I don't know. I'm not a part of the RealFi project, right? But we've been hearing about it for years. And like I pointed out in the past, we know who's involved in RealFi. We know these people, John O'Connor, Daniel Patel. I've talked about them before on the channel, specifically about what they were doing in terms of RealFi. We've talked about this before, but it could still have some fatal flaw. That's perfectly possible. But at least they're doing real world transactions. They're trying to execute real world transactions. That's what we need to do, not this other bullshit. This is our last chance. It could be, I mean, maybe not, but it could be our last chance to do this correctly. You know why? Because the rest of the world is starting to look at us like penny stocks, right? It's like for the average person who knows a tiny bit about crypto, they kind of look at it like, oh, you're Cardano. So where do you rank? Are you like the best version of, a penny stock exchange, or like the worst version? Because all of that sucks in my book. That's what the average person is thinking, because they think of us as just being like these penny stock shysters. That's not the image we want to portray, but that is the perception the rest of the world has, because that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 8 years. We've just been pushing penny stocks on the public, on ourselves. And we're like, hey, why won't you guys accept decentralization? Decentralize yourself, bitches. They don't want to decentralize themselves because they know that's not really what we're doing. We're not decentralizing the world. We're pushing penny stocks on them out of greed and avarice. That's why they won't accept decentralization, because that's not really what we're offering. We've been doing some bullshit around here. So we need to do this, right? Because what is this? This is actual decentralized finance, right? In actual decentralized finance, you want to efficiently allocate resources, right? This is a really efficient allocation of these resources, because the TradFi rails aren't reaching this guy. They're not reaching this guy. They're not reaching Sammy the grocer. He can't access those rails. It's a very efficient allocation of resources because there are no other resources available to him. This is real decentralized finance. Your animal coin yield farming is some fantasy bullshit that was created out of greed and avarice. This is some real shit. And this can also feed the greed. This can be great. This can be very profitable. right? Funding these kind of loans. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to work out great or terribly. Could go either way. I'm not a part of it. But this could actually be very profitable for the people providing the loans. It could be very powerful. It could be very useful. There could be a lot of utility in it for Tix the barber here. This could be very efficient for everybody. And also it can feed that greed and avarice that so famously motivates us in crypto. This could be a great situation. And it's real world stuff. It's not the bullshit. It's not the bullshit. Let's not do the bullshit anymore, guys. Let's do the real shit. Let's do this for real. Let's do what Satoshi had in mind for us, right? I mean, Satoshi was kind of on some bullshit too. Satoshi, like at one point was like, trying to figure out how to do poker and stuff like that on crypto. Like not a lot of people talk about that, although that's true. But when you read that Satoshi white paper, it's obvious. This is what Satoshi had in mind. He had in mind a better economic system for everybody that wasn't controlled by the central banks. That's the whole white paper, guys. That's the whole thing. That's the whole argument, the whole thesis. And what did we do with it? A bunch of stupid bullshit. Now it's time to get back to the real stuff because this might be our last chance. It might be our last chance. Look at this chart. Look at how all coins have done. Look at how Bitcoin's done, right? You can't tell me a part of that isn't because everybody knows you can't do all the bullshit on Bitcoin like you can in altcoins. In altcoins, we're the kings of the bullshit. Bitcoin, they don't do that stuff. And partially it's just because they can't technologically progress. But people don't care. They know there's less of that bullshit in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's done great. You don't need all the bullshit. The bullshit doesn't help. It probably just hurts. Based on this chart, it probably just hurts. We need to get back to the real stuff that Satoshi had in mind. So having said all that, today was a pretty good day. Today was a pretty good day. If we look at Cardano, earlier today, I think it said like 15% on the 24-hour, which is great. So it's some good news. It's some good news. Even with all of our bullshit we've done for the last 8 years in crypto in general, today was still a good day. We kind of got punished all year for all of the bullshit we've done for the last 8 years, but today was a good day. So why was today a good day? Because of stuff like this. President Trump had a bunch of announcements to make from the cabinet meeting today, one of which was just insulting Jerome Powell. We already knew this is the case. Here he's calling Jerome Powell incompetent and a real dope. The important part about the part that the markets probably cared about was President Trump very heavily hinting that Kevin Hassett, the guy who's super pro crypto, who's related to Coinbase, is probably going to be the next Fed chair. Anything could happen, in between now and May when Powell actually steps down as Fed chair. So this is Chairman Donald and the current administration. So a lot of things could happen in between now and then. But what we know is that as of today, it looks like the Coinbase guy really is the top candidate for Fed chair, which is probably very good for crypto, right? So Trump had some other things to say. So this probably got people very excited. President Trump says there will be no income tax at some point in the not too distant future. Can we take him at his word? Who knows? Can he make this come true by himself? Who knows? Can it happen? Who knows? But this is the first time in a long time we've had a president saying this. You guys remember any of the previous administrations saying, hey, what if we can get rid of income tax? Nobody's saying that. They've been loving to collect the income tax because there was no other source of revenue, no other big source of revenue. So let's check it out. So here he's talking about the $2,000 tariff dividend. So I didn't hear him say any numbers like that. A lot of people are saying, throwing up these numbers, $2,000 tariff dividend. He said this: we're going to be giving a nice dividend to the people in addition to reducing debt. He said it's going to be the largest tax refund season ever, and we're going to give out refunds out of the tariffs. That sounds like a bunch of liquidity. You remember our trillions of dollars of liquidity prophecy we saw? It wasn't my prophecy, but it was a prophecy from a certain crypto poster on the internet. So, this could be a big wave of liquidity if he can pull this off. Obviously, $2,000 checks. Originally, he said it was only going to be 2 people below a certain income threshold. So, fair enough. We'll see how that turns out. So this is interesting. We saw more about this. So this is starting to get quantified a little bit. So we heard Trump talk about putting money into accounts. Originally, what I heard, what I was reading was it would be children, born next year. What we're hearing today looks more like this. So Michael Dell and his wife have donated 6.25 billion, something like that, to this initiative where they're going to take some amount of money. I heard people throwing around different numbers. Here, this poster is saying 1,000. I didn't hear Trump say that. I just heard Trump say it was going to be some money, and part of it's obviously coming from Michael Dell and his wife. They mentioned that it would be, children, not just babies born, but possibly children under a certain age in zip codes with average incomes under 150K. How much money it actually ends up being, I don't know. But this is kind of interesting because what they've said all along is that money would have to be invested in the markets, in the equities markets specifically, they've kind of indicated. But if that much money flows into the equity markets, that's liquidity. And the kids can't touch it till they turn 18. At least that's what we've sort of been led to believe. It just kind of stays in the markets till the kids turn 18. That's a very stealthy way to introduce liquidity into the markets. So, like we've been talking about, this administration is going to find every means they can, I think, to introduce liquidity into the markets in 2026. Why? Because of midterms. So we also saw the very pro crypto SEC chair. It's so weird to say that, the very pro SEC chair. That's something we couldn't have said in the past. So SEC chair Paul Atkins was asked the question, sort of like, hey, is there anything you can do for us in crypto over here, even if we don't get the Clarity Act? And he's like, I'm looking forward to having rules that are focused on helping crypto move forward. But it's very, very obvious that the SEC is the most pro crypto SEC we've ever had or that we could ever hope for. It might be the most pro crypto SEC we will ever have, but it's definitely the most pro crypto SEC we've had so far. So things are looking good on that front. So what is everybody expecting next? What everybody's expecting next is this meme right here. I can't play the music. YouTube will get mad at me. But everybody's expecting this meme right here. Why? Because quantitative tightening ended last night. So everybody's expecting quantitative easing coming next, which would be Fed balance sheet expansion. We've had years and years and years ever since like early 2022, we've had QT. That's contraction of the Fed balance sheet. That's the opposite of liquidity. That's negative liquidity, sucking liquidity out of the system. We haven't had this since then in terms of the Fed balance sheet. There's been other things, overnight repo market, like we've covered, and the Treasury doing things. But we haven't had this in terms of the Fed balance sheet for years now. So everybody's hoping this is what comes next. We do know next month we've got this kind of chance of a cut, right? People like to argue the actual effect of cuts, how much cuts in the federal funds rate actually affect the economy. But just not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, we were down here in the 40s. There was like a 40-something% chance of a cut because of Powell's hawkish comments. When he could have just kept his mouth shut, he threw a bunch of hawkish comments at some reporter. I think it's fair to say Powell hates Trump. Trump hates Powell at this point. So he couldn't resist. He did it. So we went through weeks and weeks of everybody pricing in like a 46% chance of a cut. And now certain things have happened. Japan, all these things, the crashes in the crypto market, a lot of different things have happened that have brought the chances back up to 90%. For the Fed cut. So things are progressing like normal for crypto. We're seeing more and more ETFs like this one. This is the Canary Capital Group LLC filing of an S1 for an American-made crypto ETF that will include things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, HBAR, SOL, XRP, ADA, and AVAX. So things are progressing just like we'd expect with ETFs. And we've still got this going on. So there's the whole institutionalization theme, the Wall Street herd coming. That's still continuing. Here we see BlackRock CEO Larry Fink saying tokenization today is roughly where the internet was in 1996. I would say that's roughly accurate. I was definitely using the internet in 1996 and before and after. And it kind of does feel that way. We're definitely in those dial up modem days. I think the first time I got a T1 connection was 1997. I think 97 was the first time I was able to use the internet through a T1 connection on a regular basis. Maybe I'd used them a little bit before that. It's here and there, but 1996 makes sense to me because I was still using that dial-up modem. There's a lot of tokenization to go. And when you hear Larry Fink talking about tokenization, that kind of tells you what Wall Street is very interested in. They're interested in taking all the assets and tokenizing them. That's what they want to do. That's where they want to go with this thing, guys. That's good for crypto. Will there be bad things about it? Sure, but very good for crypto. So this is just kind of a little PSA, a little public service announcement that people should always be aware of. And this is the same one that has been the most prevalent one always on this channel. I will call it watch out for lobster traps, but they're going to get more complicated. Here we have Anthropic, who you know because of AI, saying, new on our Frontier Red Team blog, we tested whether AIs can exploit blockchain smart contracts. In simulated testing, AI agents found 4.6 million in exploits. The research with this MATS program and this is MATS research. MATS empowers researchers to advance AI alignment, governance, and security. And the Anthropic Fellows program also developed a new benchmark. So think about this. This is just one AI group who was just doing some like simulated white hat testing. They found almost 5 million in exploits, right? AI is just getting better, guys. There's going to be a lot of AI exploitation of blockchain smart contracts. Pretty much, if there's any way to hack a smart contract, to exploit a smart contract, AI is going to find it in the future. So it's not that things are going to get safer necessarily. The exploits are going to get more sophisticated. And so you hope that the people constructing the smart contracts are also using AI to find those exploits on a white hat basis and fix them beforehand. You hope that's going on and it's just kind of AI versus AI. But something tells me it's very possible things get more dangerous going forward, that the lobster traps become more frequent going forward than less frequent. It'll probably go in waves, there's sort of like offense and defense, sort of fluctuating back and forth. One side gets stronger, then another side gets stronger, and then something new gets invented and you have to create the defense. All that's going to happen, but the lobster traps are going to get more sophisticated in the future. Okay, let's go to some comments and see what people have on their minds tonight. So I skipped a lot of comments on purpose because I wanted to get through the whole thing. The whole thing. Yep, Thomas. Tonight was the night when we don't censor ourselves. So feel free to not censor yourselves in the comments as well. So, yep. This was no carpool night for sure. So Defo Flag says, is there an actual SIP that is being voted on for USDC? So Defo Flag means SIP, Cardano Improvement Proposal, so CIP, that is being voted on for USDC. Is there a vote date? So this is part of the critical integrations governance action. So the way Treasury withdrawals currently work is you're going to see an information action that's sort of like a temperature check. That happens first, then the actual withdrawal governance action happens. But it's a governance action, and it's being voted on right now. It's being voted on right now. It said I checked earlier today, it was in the 60s. So it was almost the info action was almost above what would be the approval threshold for the withdrawal action. So it's going to pass. Yep. I think this is one of our last chances. This is one of our last chances to maintain relevancy. If we want to capture the imagination of the masses, which is pretty much necessary for us to do what we want to do, we got to fix this now. We can't keep doing bullshit. We got to do real shit. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, I can't even. Let's go. Corn Solid, good morning. J. Marie says, since I got into crypto, my main focus has always been real world utility. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I agree. That's been my main focus too. Emilio says, let's go Slugcoin. You know, it's hard to fight. It's hard to fight it because it is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. I got to admit, a lot of the bullshit we do is pretty funny. So at least we have a good sense of humor about it, I think. Bindocam says Gen Z saw all the scams and left. Pretty much it seems that's what happened. Yep. We're just being real honest tonight. Everybody's being real honest tonight. Otis Freechov says utility for the win. Yep. A lot of the meme coins are just that, and it's okay. Like, I'm not trying to assign any negative morality to creating meme coins or anything like that. And actually, we must appreciate them because they're creating transaction volume on our blockchain. We just need to push them over to the other side of the wall. This wall is important. This is the wall of focus, right? We have real world transaction execution on this side of the wall. And if they want to do all their animal coin, TVL bullshit on the other side of the wall, that's fine too. But just like go to the exit. If you're one of those people who wants to build that stuff, go through the exit to the other side of the wall. Let's not have you be the main focus of crypto because it turns everybody off. Everybody gets pissed and thinks we're a bunch of shysters over here, a bunch of scammers. They think we're a bunch of scammers if that's our main focus. So we need to de-emphasize that part of crypto because it seems scammy to normal people. They don't tolerate that shit. James says, I believe a lot of it is instant gratification nowadays. People can't get the quick Lambos anymore and don't want to wait 8 years for a 10X. So true. So true. I cannot argue with any part of that. 100% the younger people got put off during the NFT phase and completely after the meme shit in this phase. 100%. We gotta be bringing in fresh blood in crypto. If you think you are on the vanguard of technological progress, if you think you're doing the state of the art shit and it turns off young people, you got to start asking some fucking questions. That's why we need to have this reckoning. This is a reckoning. We've been doing some bullshit that turns off 20-year-olds. Right? 20-year-olds. This shit should be the most seductive to 20-year-olds. And what we have instead is it's all of us dinosaurs who are into this shit. And the 20-year-olds are turned off by our bullshit. We got to start asking some serious questions. Cardano Universe says real world assets. D9U says, I follow everything Cardano as closely as I can. I love ADA Cardano because memes have never been a focus. Cardano is still fixed in delivery, a true crypto product. Thanks, Charles. I would add. Yeah, this is a very good point. If I was in Solana, I would not have made it through this cycle. I would have retired from crypto. If this had been called the Solana rumor rundown, and I had to go through this cycle where Solana pulled itself from the jaws of defeat after the FTX meltdown and scandal, you know, Solana took a huge hit because they were, I'll just say that was a big hit for them. I don't want to get sued by anybody. That was a big hit for them, right? I don't want anybody to say I'm trying to, you know, disparage them, but that was a big hit for them. And they pulled themselves from the jaws of defeat by becoming the world's biggest meme coin casino. I would have quit crypto. If this was a Solana rumor rundown, I would have turned it off. I would have turned it off and never come back. I would have left crypto because that was peak bullshit. At least in Cardano, it was kind of muted. We kind of turned it down because I think we're not 100% nonsense people. Not saying Solana is. There's some innovation going on over there for sure of some type. Maybe I'm not into it, but there's some innovation going on. So they're not all nonsense people, but I think we have a lower quotient of nonsense people in Cardano, right? There's a lower quotient of it. And that kept me in because I have hope for Cardano because we didn't become the biggest meme coin casino because I think we're not all nonsense people. We do need to make the nonsense people go through the exit though. We need to send the nonsense people, just like our bro there with the flat brimmed hat. We need to send him through that exit door. We just need to, just coax him along. Tell him there's other people like him. There's a lot of flat brims on the other side of the wall. Nothing wrong with flat brims. There's good arguments, for that, maybe being the optimal way to shade your eyes, whatever. I'm not disparaging you flat brim hat people. I am saying he's probably a crypto bro in that image, and it's good. He's going through that exit. We need to coax them through that exit, and they can do all their bullshit on the other side of the wall. Let's do real world transaction execution over here. Let's be the executioners, the real world transaction executioners on this side of the wall. And those guys can all trade their bullshit on the other side of the wall over there. Yeah, do not use this. I think you were talking to the Sol people here, not the ADA folks. Oh, I mean, we've done our share of it. We've done our share of it. I would argue even we have done too much. But certainly, yeah, we are not the peak. We were not the peak bullshit guys. TVL is a ridiculous metric. Yeah, I've been arguing this for years. I used to say we should call it total value liberated, but that's not the right way to say it. Locking is the stupid part. We don't want to lock value on the chain. We want to allocate value better via the chain. We want to use the chain to allocate resources more efficiently. We don't want to lock them up on the fucking chain. That's stupid. That makes us a drag on the economy. We don't want to be a drag on the real world economy. Like we're sucking liquidity out of the real world economy and greedily holding it, like our precious on the fucking chain. We don't want to do that. It's a stupid metric. We want to execute real world motherfucking transactions on the goddamn chain. That's what we want to do. Lone Eagle says, we have not even gone past the last cycle all-time high. Crypto is crashing. Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason is because everybody saw through our bullshit. We've been doing bullshit for the last 8 years. Everybody saw through it. And so we didn't, the last 4 years have not gone great. Maybe next year will go great. And honestly, a lot of it is tied to the liquidity. We probably also would have done great this year if the liquidity had been good. But a component is that the masses, we could not capture their imagination. Gen Z walked away. We didn't bring in fresh blood because they saw through our bullshit. I can't even says, feels like the younger crypto people and newer folks to crypto became the exit strategy for VCs and older retail in this phase. Yeah. They got rained on. They got rained on, dude. They got dumped on, and it was not good. And a lot of them will not come back to crypto. We can't do that. We can't do that to the new people. We cannot do that. We created a bunch of Ponzi's. We created a billion Ponzi schemes, and all the victims of those Ponzi's will not come back. They will not come back. The equities markets do Ponzi's better than us. Ours are too obvious. I think we can even tokenize electricity. Certainly. That's an obvious. I agree. It's an obvious use case. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we have to be passionate about this. If we don't become passionate about this issue, we're going to, nonchalantly, politely usher ourselves into the fucking grave as an industry, as a sector, as a movement, whatever you want to call crypto. Some people hate it when you call it an industry or a sector. That's fine. Call it a movement, whatever. That movement is going into the fucking casket if we keep doing this bullshit, because people don't like us right now. We're like the bullshit guys. We need to send all the bullshit guys through that exit. Tell them to go through the exit. Go to their bullshit on the bullshit side of the wall. That's the only way. We got to start doing real shit. The crypto kids thought they were cool, rugging the whole world, and now the whole world is rugging crypto. You reap what you sow. Exactly. Twig, you put it well. We are reaping what we sowed. And, I keep trying to, I want to keep it intellectually honest. A lot of it is the liquidity. We probably still would have done well if we had the liquidity. That was probably the biggest piece of it. But it's a fundamental problem that everybody thinks we're nonsense bullshit people. Thank you, Dr. Doak. Thank you, Dr. Doak. Not everybody will like this, but this is how I actually am. This is how I actually am in the real world. Only YouTube policy keeps me the way I am in most of the videos. Otis Freechove says, also in Charles's video, did he not? Okay, we already addressed this. Yes, he did. He did, and I was excited to see that. James says, but they control us with taxes unless we just stop cashing into fiat and everything is crypto elites. Everything is crypto elites would rather nuke the world than let us be happy. Yeah, I mean, it's the two certainties, right? Death and taxes. I'm not saying I would never tell anybody to do anything to break the law. I don't want any crypto people to go to jail. So I pay all my taxes. I pay all my crypto taxes. I encourage everybody else to pay their crypto taxes because I don't think any of us should go to jail. Like, I want to maximize freedom, and going to jail for tax evasion is the opposite of optimizing freedom. So I don't think there's anything we can do about taxes in the meantime. That's like its own movement trying to fix that. Okay, so Cardano universe. Oh yeah, no. There is also the same. There are also bullshit nonsense people in Bitcoin, but you know what? There are a lot fewer bullshit projects in Bitcoin, right? There are you can find bullshit in Bitcoin, but you know, they're not the biggest meme coin casino for a fucking reason. And everybody knows it, right? Everybody knows it. Like, you know, I think about, you know, where would I send my mother if I didn't want her to get caught up in some bullshit? Would I have her invest in Bitcoin or would I turn her loose in Solana? Right? It's like we all know the answer to that question. Money that doesn't move is sad money. Don't make money sad. Well put, Bindocam. We don't want to lock it on the fucking chain. Unleash those resources on the real world. Send it to Tix the barber. Send it to Sammy the grocer. Send it to Salome, who's creating like a chef training school. That's another one of the little vignettes they have related to that website, right? Let's unleash that capital on entrepreneurs who can use it, right? Sammy and Tix and Salome, they can use it. Let's not lock it on the goddamn chain. That's the stupidest metric ever. If it isn't deflationary, there is no self-custody. If there is no decentralization, if you can't use it to buy a real-world sandwich or a car, then it's just mathematical masturbation. DIY 10K, well put. We need to have self-custody, and we need to have decentralization, and we need it to touch the goddamn real world. Enough of this fantasy bullshit. The fantasy bullshit doesn't work. It does not work. Did Charles, I think Brian's trying to say, did Charles lend money or ADA? I'm sure it was money. I'm sure it was money because when he did those loans, we saw them. We saw him do those loans we saw him do many loans, just like the ones he's talking about on his AMAs back in the day. He had to do it in dollars because it wasn't built out in crypto yet. I think that's what RealFi is doing. RealFi is building out the way to do that in crypto. Dorian, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Uptober, Upvember. I mean, yeah, these are just like symptoms of us being, you know, degens. This is like, I think the Uptober and Upvember, this is more like symptoms. The real problem is what we're excited about, right? Like a lot of I don't want to name any names, but a lot of the YouTube people who were making a lot of comments about Uptober and Upvember, when you watch their stuff and you quickly realized what they were excited about was meme coins going back up. I mean, that's what they were all about, meme coins going back up. Sure, base layer tokens too, but it was always like, oh yeah, these tokens, might go up a little bit, but what I'm really excited about is my meme coins 1,000xing, 10,000xing, whatever their fantasy was. Yeah, thank you, Sub-Zero. Thank you. Ethereum escapes the wrath that Cardano gets because the opportunistic people like VCs and now trend institutions love the robbery force because they find it familiar what they always have been doing. Kind of true. Funny, but kind of true. ADA for the future. Yep. Yep. The robbery forest finds more losers in urine finance. Was there a urine exploit today? James says, I'll take my odds with a guy named John O'Connor. Terminator vibes. Totally. Totally. Anyone with even a smidge of foresight can see that all this PFP, NFT, meme coin bullshit will disappear and make way for the real shit someday. That's when chains like Solana will fade away. Yeah, I mean, like, even like macro analysts, I think we covered it the other day. Even macro analysts are giving interviews now where they're saying that Solana is basically gonna have to reinvent themselves. They were definitely the best meme coin casino. They nailed that one on the head, but it's just like it was like they were the fastest runner in the who can be the biggest nonsense person race, right? It's like who could do the most bullshit. They were like, that's us, player. We got it. We got that. More Fibonaccios. Yeah. There's Fibonaccios are usually about number goes up, which is fair. I mean, they're just pushing the dopamine buttons. The same dopamine buttons that all the bullshit projects tap into. The amount of painful arguments I've had about this on X. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go on X and you go on Crypto X or anywhere, any social media platform, and say the things I'm saying right now, and you will be attacked. You will be attacked so heavily because a lot of people have big bags of these bullshit projects, right? It's like meme coins haven't been doing anything good for a while, and a lot of people have a lot of big bags. All that dopamine, all the future dopamine is tied to those bags. And if those bags don't recover, it's a real bad scene for them. Real bad. Dolph B. Wolf, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. So I know I'm a little behind in the comments, guys, but I'm trying to work through them here. I started paying attention to Empowa in 2021. Did I spell that right? Yeah. No, I think you spelled it right for sure. Dog just said maybe Smoky Bones still. Oh, the dog is back. Okay, I'm glad to hear it. Last update we got, the dog had hit the door, so glad to hear the dog is back. That's good. Yeah. Jerry H says, do some research on the size of Pesa, Wonga, and Mukuru in Africa. Loans and payment rails, circumventing banks. Imagine a blockchain universe. Exactly. Right? Imagine all of this on the blockchain, on Cardano. That's what pushes those dopamine buttons for me, right? Just imagining all of that on our blockchain, on the blockchain period, but on our blockchain. That's exciting. Not the bullshit animal coin you invented, right? I'm not trying to make some dude who invented an animal coin rich. Fuck those guys. Fuck those guys, right? I'm not talking about any particular guys. There are lots of good people who made animal coins just because they wanted to do crypto stuff, and that was the easiest thing to do. So I'm not blaming those people, but they do need to go through this exit. Like the nonsense people doing all the bullshit need to go to the other side of the wall. They can do that over there. They're welcome to do it, but do it over on that side of the wall. Go to the exit. Hope he's the dismantling overseer. Powell is going to get hammered for the next 6 months. Very much so. It's not good. The way after the Japanese, after Ueda's comments from the BOJ yesterday, man, I guess it was probably Sunday night, Western time. Man, I think Powell probably read those comments and saw the 2-year bond prices spike in Japan and was like, I think he knew he was in for 6 months of punishment. I think he knew it was going to look very bad for him. That was going to taint his legacy. Spooky Tech says, made it. Very well emphasized on all the BS AOS. This is the way. Thank you. There's not many of us in crypto who feel this way, who've resisted the seduction of all the bullshit. Not many of us have resisted it, but we do exist. So thank you. Thank you, Spooky Tech. If you believe we won't have taxes, I can tell you when. Yeah. Federal see, this is exactly some I don't know anything about it. I'll just say I don't know anything about it. Just like the combination of those letters, it's like I don't even pay attention to stuff like that. I see that combination of like letters and I'm just like, who knows? Could be something, but there's a lot of bullshit. So I don't even pay attention to that stuff. No income tax would mean more DCAing. No income tax would mean more DCAing in real crypto until I'm solely paid in crypto one day. Yep, agreed. I would just DCA more. 100%. Cardano is probably the only chain in its community or the only true followers of the Satoshi vision. Bitcoin and the wider altcoin industry has adopted the number go up and now dump on the newbies. Yep. Yeah, I like to think that there's a lower nonsense quotient in Cardano for sure. We're more reasonable. Bitcoin OP return and the latest core update is going to allow for insane amounts of spam, including CSAM, like we saw in Bitcoin SV when they increased their inscription size. I haven't followed any of that, so thank you for indicating that there's something going on there. I would like to learn more about that. Cardano Universe says anyone who tells me to just buy Bitcoin only, I block. BindoCam is making the money printer go burr noise. Yep. D.U makes a good point. I try not to single out any particular projects, right? Obviously, I have certain projects in mind when I'm saying these things, but I don't want to single anybody out because the individuals aren't the important part. The individual projects aren't even the important part. It's just our focus should not be on them. But D.U says, remember that Ape Society NFT meme that moved out of ADA? Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, exactly. Like when so much focus is on one of these types of projects, and then all of a sudden, whoever controls the project decides, oh, there's greener grass on the other side of the fence. It's like that just shows the fragility of the whole concept, right? Putting so much attention on a single project like that, is the problem. Like the whole concept of putting that much attention on a single project, that is the fragility. That's the problem. That's the fragile practice. Yeah, I think it's funny because Trump has always accused him of being, too late Jerome Powell or whatever. And it's looking like and that could we'll see. But yeah, when the Japanese thing, when the BOJ thing happened the other day, it was like I was like, man, the hawkish comments from like a month ago are aging like spilt milk. So Vanguard. A clever way to stimulate the economy by not having the Fed do it. Public companies donate, aka companies get tax breaks and other subsidized things that we won't come to know about. Yeah, especially the accounts for the little kids. That's a very clever way to issue stimmy checks that must go to the markets, right? It's like imagine if you issued stimmy checks to adults and you said, oh, but you don't actually get the money. It has to stay in the markets for the next 18 years. There would be riots. People would be so pissed. But if it's for babies, kids under 10, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's the reasonable thing. Sure. They would never accept that for their own selves, their own adult selves. But for kids under 10, they're like, yeah, that's the reasonable thing. That's cool. So it's a very crafty way to issue a little stimulus, but not actually let people spend it. Just force them to keep it in the markets. So it's a great way to inject liquidity in the markets. BlackRock will be next to Add Ada. I hope so. Actually, I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Obviously, we want to be adopted to the same extent every other ecosystem is, and that is a form of adoption, but there's some bad things that go along with it. Hilldog, thank you for joining. Like I always say, early, late, on time, whatever. I'll take people joining anytime. Blue Mammal. Yep, Blue Mammal is, I think that's the DAP emoji. It's pretty small, but I think that's the DAP emoji. Ruandre, I have no idea. I never make predictions because I don't believe that anybody actually knows. There's too many factors. It's like this BOJ thing. How many people last Friday were telling you that UATA was going to make those comments, right? It's like a black swan. It's effectively a black swan. When the head of the BOJ jumps out like UATA did and makes comments like that, hawkish comments, it's effectively a black swan for the markets. Nobody was predicting that shit on Friday. There was no motherfucker who was like, hey, watch out, U8 is going to do this thing on Monday. That's not a part of the Fibonaccios. There's no Fibonacci where they draw like a portrait of UATA and they're like, yo, this is going to happen on Monday. That shit doesn't happen. That's why there are a million different variables like that that can happen on any given day in macro and in crypto. And that's why I don't believe anybody can really predict the markets. So I wish I knew too, though. Your desire to know, your desire to get that prediction is very understandable. I wish somebody could give me that prediction and be right. But I know that just like nobody predicted UATA saying that, nobody really knows what the price is going to be at the end of this month. Thomas Kirkpatrick says Gen Z is the main group proponents of every scammy 80 IQ thing that exists in crypto. That's true. They do their share of the bullshit. I think they were like so disillusioned by what they saw. Like half of them left and half of them were like, I can do that. I can do that better than you old guys. I can do it even worse. I can do it. I can do an even better Ponzi scheme. I agree. I totally agree. Privacy is why midnight will be the real fi side of Cardano. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I think so. So Charles, in the video today, in Charles's video from yesterday, I guess, he said that RealFi will be on Cardano. But I agree with you that there will be applications of RealFi that are heightened significantly by privacy, and those will obviously have to happen on midnight. So for sure. Mission Zambia says, most definitely we need to be real. Mission Zambia is starting a campaign of visiting universities to educate students on Cardano Web3. We need to bring the next generation of builders in. That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to bring students into crypto, because if they buy some fucked up meme coin and then they get dumped on by the founders so the founders can drive Lambos, I mean, it's a transfer of wealth from, these young people to those founders, just so those founders can do some bullshit like moon Lambos and probably jewelry and shit like that. So yeah, this is much better. This is the way it should be happening. This is the way it should be happening. There should be we need a lot less of the bullshit that turns them off and a lot more of this for sure. So thank you for doing that, Mission Zambia. From all of us. I think that's the right thing to do. How does midnight get accepted where Cardano has struggled? So, I think midnight, I think the biggest thing, so the most immediate thing with midnight is that midnight has perfectly timed the privacy trend, right? Cardano, I mean, we all remember, I was buying Cardano for under 3 cents at a certain point, and then it went to above $3. Cardano perfectly timed Gen 3 for that cycle when it 100x'd. Cardano like perfectly timed the Gen 3 trend. And I'm not making any predictions about midnight, by the way. This is not a prediction about midnight. I'm just reciting the history of what actually happened in Cardano. So it's like full stop on what I just said. And then also a totally different topic. Midnight is kind of perfectly timing privacy. So I think midnight will get accepted in a lot of ways with the current crypto crop of users, because it's just like perfectly timing the biggest latest trend, which is privacy. So beyond that, what has it done to get accepted where Cardano has struggled? I think we're going to find out. Once it hits the ground. I think we'll find out if that's how it plays out. Sub-Zero V67 says, I think the chain that figures out a use case outside of DeFi will win. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. When you ask the question, when you sort of ask the question, like, what use cases have actually worked? What use cases outside of DeFi have actually worked? The unfortunate truth is none. So everything else that's actually worked well has basically just been the casino stuff. It's like, which is actually, I've argued this like so many times. I've argued this so many times, but all the casino stuff is basically just securities has historically been securities law avoidance. So the casino stuff only existed because you couldn't do that on TradFi rails because the SEC would throw the book at you. So the historical use cases of crypto that have worked have been as money until Bitcoin decided to be stupid and turn off the money use case. They're like, oh, I've said many times this channel, I lived through the Bitcoin block size wars when a bunch of us wanted big blocks so that Bitcoin could be money. And we lost that battle. I would argue largely through censorship of all of the main social media channels where this was being discussed. I think censorship played a big role in the big blockers losing that battle and the small blockers winning, but the small blockers did win and Bitcoin became a store of value. It was no longer money. So I would argue that money was the big use case. Then it was DeFi, and the rest of it has been securities law avoidance, all the casino shit. ICOs in 2017. That was just securities law avoidance. That was just like, hey, here's a convenient way for you guys to break securities laws and probably not get arrested. Some people got in trouble with the SEC, right? It's like, we had the $4 billion ICO, which was mind blowing at the time. Those guys definitely got in trouble, but largely, a lot of people just broke the securities laws and they got away with it. That's what all the casino shit was. Yeah, I think DeFi, in the form of RealFi is going to be the first, if we do this right, RealFi can be the first chance to invent a goddamn use case for blockchain that means something, right? I would argue that DeFi is a big part of that. So it's important when we have these building blocks of DeFi, these sort of DeFi primitives in place. We had to have those in place to do RealFi to some extent, but RealFi can be the first use case besides the original money use case, which the small blockers fucking blew up by winning the Civil War. I would argue, and there's a pretty healthy conspiracy theory I can get into about why that happened, because I fucking watched it happen. And certain moderators may have been on the payroll of certain companies that were building, basically state channels for big Bitcoin. I don't want to get sued, so we won't go into that right now. But my best hope for this, though, is RealFi. RealFi can be the first significant, important goddamn use case for crypto. Besides the money thing that we fucked up, it can be the first really significant, good use case for crypto. This can be the first good one for blockchains. Binochem says, you'd be covering the top 10 shitcoins every time and coming up with excuses on how shutting it off is good. You're saying so you probably posted this when I was talking about the hypothetical. If this had been the Solana rumor rundown, that's true. I would just be talking shit about the ecosystem's assets the whole time. You're right. Cardano Universe says, my philosophy is in order for Cardano to succeed is our own influencers or teachers need to act more like adults and present less BS dog and cat memes and more pro-business viewpoints. Yeah. I mean, in the sense that, so I think there are cultural things about the normal business world that suck. And there are cultural things about the crypto world that are awesome. So I would argue we combine the two things, right? We keep our own culture, but we address, and we should act like adults. But, there's some immature things in crypto that are also good because they're casual. I like the casual side of crypto for sure. But we do need to address actual commerce, real world commerce. We need to execute real motherfucking transactions. When you say pro business, that's what I think of. We need to execute the real motherfucking transactions and not do all the bullshit anymore. Thomas Kirkpatrick says Gen Z retards, celebrity meme coin pump and dump, dogs with hat bullshit scared the real money, which is the boomers. TikTok shorts and COVID melted their brains. Yeah, I mean, it's like it all got fucked up. It all got fucked up for sure. Solana meme coin dump and pumps is point proof that Gen Z got out of college, realized the real world sucks, but don't have the mental bandwidth, the research true value, and opted for bullshit. Yeah, I think that kind of happened. I think that happened. Army of Spies Sopranos edition. Retail has gotten smarter, like Charles said. Yeah, no, I mean it's true. It's true. Yeah, retail saw through all of our bullshit 100%. And it didn't have to be this way. Like it didn't have to be this way. We could have done the real shit all along, but somehow we got sidetracked with all this fake stuff. We got sidetracked with all this bullshit. Now it's time for us to make those guys walk through the exit, and they can still do all their bullshit. They can fuck around with each other on the other side of that wall over there. They can do that. Could be the bullshit, territory over there. They can do all that shit with each other over there. Let's execute real world transactions. Let's optimize RTE, real transaction execution, real transactions executed. Let's optimize that motherfucking metric on this side of the wall. Good marketing too. Unfortunately, Trump's kids rugged the masses. Not a good start. Should have waited for regulations, not getting political. Yeah, no, I mean, agreed. It was a bad look. That was a bad look. I will not argue with you there. That did not look good for crypto. That politicized crypto in some ways. And it just, when the same guys trying to make good policy for crypto are profiting off it. So, I mean, doing the bullshit, like doing all the doing peak bullshit in crypto, it's not good. Yeah, I mean, that was some peak bullshit. I won't argue with you there for sure. They will come back. D9 uses they will come back. It was their mistake to buy into BS projects or memes without any research or intent to change the world. Crypto will continue to evolve, and those who bought into BS will come. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's true. We've recovered the ICOs. ICOs were terrible. The 2017 ICOs, like I said, there were some good ones like Cardano, but there were a ton of bullshit ones. I had a little business, a little like brick and mortar business that was just kind of like a side thing, I was doing during that period. And people would come in all the time and tell me about the bullshit ICOs they were buying into. Like otherwise intelligent enough people would come in and just tell me about the worst, most bullshit ICOs, just the worst fuckery in crypto they were buying into. And I couldn't believe it. And we recovered from that. And then the NFT PFP thing happened. We recovered from that. Then the, DeFi summer happened, and everybody got burned by slippage and impermanent loss. Slippage on the, utilizing liquidity side, and impermanent loss on the providing liquidity side. And people got burned during DeFi summer too. They still get burned on those things today. And we recovered from that. And then NFTs happened. We recovered from that. And now meme coins have happened. The problem is in the aggregate is we've just gotten into this vicious cycle of burning people over and over and over again. And at the end of every cycle, they realize it was just some bullshit. It was just some fuckery. We've engaged in cycles of fuckery for years now. Years. We got to end that. Send those people through the exit. Let them do the fuckery on the other side of the wall. Let's execute real world transactions on this side of the motherfucking wall. That's all I'm saying. Uncle Thanos, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Yes. Actually, this is literally the truth. I haven't said this recently, but I used to say it all the time. I am not Army of Spies. That is not the fucking name on my birth certificate. But we are all, everybody who listens to this channel, along with me, are the Army of Spies. It's a collective name because that was the name of the DApp that the channel is named that because that was the name of the DApp that was in Catalyst Fund 3 that we put through Catalyst Fund 3. Thank God everybody did not give me money for that because I realized only after the fact that we could not have even built it then, right? We couldn't have built it then. So I'm glad that didn't get funded. Thank God. But that did become the name of this channel. And it's not my name. It's all of us together. The Army of Spies is all of us together. AOS is a convenient enough name to call me, but the Army of Spies is definitely all of us together. So good point, Uncle Thanos. I told them to get USDC in 2022 during bear market, but Charles rejected that concept. Big Pay was talking to Circle. Yeah, I remember when Big Pay said he was going to go talk to Circle people. The problem was the price tag, right? It's like the big problem was the motherfucking price tag, right? It's kind of like you're sitting around with your buddies when you're young and somebody's like, dude, we would get so many more girls if we had a motherfucking Ferrari, if we had a Rari. And then another guy's like, no, we want the Lambo. And then another guy's like, no, the 911 is more classy, right? And those are all fine propositions. However, somebody's got to pay the motherfucking price tag. And that was the problem back then. If anybody was willing to pay the price tag back then, we probably could have gotten it. But now it's gotten to the point where people have committed to making it happen. And we're only footing, it seems like a small part of the bill. So I'm like, let's do it now that somebody's finally willing to foot the bill, right? Emilio says, we don't need people to like us. We need real use so that people use us creating real world demand. Let's huck them instead. I agree. Let's catapult these guys over the wall. No, I mean, I don't wish anything bad on the people who've been doing all the fuckery in crypto. Like, I mean, maybe the fuckery, the outright scams, maybe. But, the people who've just been doing the bullshit, all the meme coins and all the NFT, PFP NFTs and all the bullshit ICOs, we just need to, it's wrong to try to ostracize those people and harm them or whatever, even just to socially ostracize them is not the right approach. The right approach is to just usher them gently through that exit and be like, hey, crypto is permissionless. So you motherfuckers can do your bullshit on that other side of the wall. Just don't do it do it over there with each other. And anybody who wants to engage in the bullshit can go over there with you guys. You guys do all that shit over there. On this side of the wall, we're going to execute real world motherfucking transactions. That's what we do on this side of the wall. This is going to be the focus of crypto. You guys and your bullshit, you guys can be over there in the shadow realm. You guys be the denizens of the motherfucking shadow realm over there. That's where we need you guys. So we should gently usher them over there on that side of the wall. Okay. My mom delegated her Cardano to me. Good. That's fantastic. I mean, that's the way it should be, right? That's the way it should be. If you're saying actual delegation, I hope your mom has a chance to use her Cardano herself. I hope it gets user friendly enough that she can use it herself too. But if you're talking about her delegating to a pool that you run, I think that's great. True. True. Yeah, a picture that is an NFT U8 just looking for the next sucker to buy it more than you paid for it. Ponzi. Yeah, there's a lot of Ponzi schemes in crypto. There's a lot of Ponzi's. It's horrible. It's horrible. There's a lot of Ponzi's. I want to name names. So it would be emotionally satisfying to engage in a witch hunt and, ostracize these people for the fuckery they've inflicted upon us. However, nothing good comes out of that. Everybody just gets mired down in drama. What we need to do is just gently usher them to the exit into the fuckery side of the wall. That's what we need to do. We just need to take the focus off them and not pay them any attention. Let them go do their fuckery with each other on the other side of the wall. There will always be people who want to do it. There will always be people who want to do it, but we need to let them do the fuckery with each other, and we'll execute real world transactions on this side of the wall. Yeah, I'm just being real honest. This is how I normally talk. This is totally how I normally talk. So I thought this video is too important. This was too important to censor myself like I normally do for the sake of this web this web video platforms policies. It's too important. So we're not censoring this stuff today. This is too important. Yeah, no, I warned everybody at the start. Scolder, I warned everybody at the start. This was not going to be the carpool video. You'd want to turn this off if you're ushering the kids to school this morning in the carpool. S Walker says, I asked the dog why he came back. He said staking is key and he sees a future with me. Damn smart. It sounds good. Sounds good. Real economy transactions. Oh, I like that. Real economy transactions. I think we almost, so the problem is then people argue about what's the real economy. I think we almost need the word world in there, like real world economy transactions. Real world economy transactions. So we need some kind of a metric like this, though. We need not to be locking the motherfucking value on the chain. We need to be having that value. We need to be allocating resources to the real world, to real world things. We don't want to lock it up on the chain like a bunch of assholes. That's what you do if you're an asshole, right? You lock all the resources on the chain so that only you and your blockchain buddies can access them. No, we want to allocate resources more efficiently in the real world via the motherfucking chain. We don't want to lock it up on the chain like a bunch of assholes. If ADA isn't a thing for TradFi like BTC is, I'm actually okay with that. Cardano would be the true Satoshi vision. We can operate without extra eyes, truly outside of TradFi. I mean, I got to admit, I'm pretty sympathetic to this viewpoint. I'm pretty sympathetic to this because fuck TradFi. I mean, there's no better way to say it. Fuck TradFi. Satoshi wrote the white paper, and he basically could have just written "fuck TradFi" in 190 font letters on the first page. That could be the whole first page of the motherfucking white paper. Fuck TradFi. That would have been a better way to start the white paper. The Fed is not working for us. Yeah, the Fed is not even a part of the goddamn government. So that's one of the first little conspiracy theories you find out is true when you're young, when you're 12 and somebody's like, the Fed isn't even a part of the goddamn government. You're in, middle school or junior high, what do they call it where you live, the middling school or whatever. And somebody's like, the Fed is not even a part of the goddamn government. And then you go, in the age of the internet, you would have Googled it or something and found it on Wikipedia and read about its independent status and how the Fed governors, are much more linked to the banks than they are to the government. And you would have found out that this is true. They are not really working for us. Emilio, you too. Have a great day, man. Have a great day. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Yep, has an R in there, doesn't it? Has an R in there. This administration is trying to replace the Fed with a new Fed, aka companies in the S&P. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep inventing ways to debase the currency and manipulate the monetary base. Administrations are going to do whatever it takes to roll over the debt and stimulate the economy to kick the can down the road. So they're just going to keep inventing new ways to do this, whether it's checks for the babies that have to be invested in the stock market for the next 18 years, the next almost 2 full decades, they're going to keep doing that shit. Yeah, forever, pretty much forever. That's the way it's going to go, unfortunately. And we are the exit point. Yes, true. Can we vote for Tuesday as AOS Uncensored Tuesdays? Yeah, let me know. Let me know in the comments or on X You know, some people, I guarantee you, I'm going to get private messages from people who I like and respect, who are going to basically like try to discipline me for my language. I already know who they are. And unfortunately, they're people I like. There are people I like in Cardano who you all know who will send me messages, basically chewing me out for my terrible language. But I can't help it. This is the real me. This is the real me. So I'm sorry. To those people, I apologize. I know some people are probably shocked. I apologize. I can also do the other thing, but this is actually the authentic me. So I apologize to those people. I still like you just the same. Even if you're mad at me for my language today, I still like you. I know I'm not addressing you. I can't even. I'm talking about those people who are going to be mad about this. This is true. EOS only had to pay a minuscule fine. So EOS is the blockchain that did that gigantic $4 billion ICO, which doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but was a huge amount of money. That was a fucking lot of money back in the day. And they only had to pay a tiny fine at the end of the day. So that kind of sent the message to the rest of the crypto space that you should just try to make as much money as you can doing your fuckery, because the fine at the end of the day, if you're successful, the fine at the end of the day is going to be so small, it makes it all worth it anyways. And then, it's like, where is EOS today? How many EOS maximalists do you have, popping up every day now in 2025? Not many. Very few references to EOS, very few mentions of EOS at all. Sub-Zero says, just spitballing, but something to do with the supply chain and verification and AI to optimize efficiency. Quick, someone build it. Yeah, this is the kind of shit, exactly. This is the kind of shit we should be building for RealFi. Not even for RealFi. Crypto should be motherfucking RealFi. RealFi is a name, is a label we're attaching to what crypto should actually fucking be. It's what crypto should actually fucking be. So we should be directionally building out stuff like this. Something to do with supply chain and verification and AI to optimize efficiency. All those things. Yes, and yes. We have to get rid of some other tokens that have questionable names that are offensive to some people. Yeah, I mean, it's in a permissionless environment, you're always going to have offensive speech, basically offensive communication. It's always going to happen. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, there are things that are said in a free speech environment that I utterly hate. This is so trite to say this, but I will defend their right to engage in their free speech, even if I hate their fucking speech. So, do you think any chain has been technically ready for RealFi? It feels like we are only now at a stage where protocols are fleshed out sufficiently to handle any real utility. Yes, this is a really good point. Somebody earlier made the point that RealFi is going to happen on midnight. I think privacy is like an important part of privacy is going to be an important part of certain parts of RealFi, right? It's like, let's imagine you're a merchant in a place where getting robbed is something you got to worry about. And you get a big loan from, some RealFi platform. Do you want all of the bandits in your area to know that you just came into a bunch of funds? Fuck no. You're going to end up with a fucking revolver in your face. You don't want that shit at all. So, like, there are some real privacy reasons to there's some real privacy needs in some cases when it comes to RealFi. And we haven't been able to do that. We have not been able to do that. Like, we all knew what every single goddamn address was doing in Cardano up till now, up till midnight, which I regard as the privacy layer of Cardano. We haven't been able to obscure what any address is doing. If a bunch of money went to an address, it was all discoverable by us. So this is a very good point. You're starting to sound like Tupac with all the MF booms. Are you saying Tupac? Are you saying Tupac? If so, I will take that as a compliment, as West Coast rap was very popular in the 90s when I was in high school. Tupac, though, definitely from the East Coast, even though we associate him with West Coast rap because that's where his production happened. The production of his songs was definitely West Coast style. And he was on the West Coast. Well, there needs to be some oversight on what kinds of English can be used for naming tokens. I mean, if there is, it's not really permissionless, right? So, and I think you can make a reasonable argument on both sides of this, right? You can make some reasonable arguments on both sides of this, but if it's permissioned, you start getting into censorship problems, right? So I'm trying to not to sound like a square, but I want more professionalism. Damn it. I mean, CEOs and reps of Cardano too. Yeah, I get where you're going with this, and it's reasonable. Your argument is reasonable, but the second the naming of coins has some oversight, it's no longer permissionless, and that's going to lead to censorship. Unfortunately, inevitably, it will. Youth Promo says CRR 750 episode is fucking the best truth out there. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Binocam says keep keep the animal coin orgy in the corner. I agree. I don't even care what orientation it is. Just keep it in the corner. I don't care about the orientation at all. But through the exit. Do it on the other side of the wall. Do it on the other side of the goddamn wall. I don't want you to be the focus. You can do it. It's permissionless. You can do it, but do your fuckery with each other. We don't want to see it. We don't want the public to associate that with us so strongly. Where do I have to go? Quantum Hosky for what? For what? Beamer House. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for joining. They're going to have to pay the price now, huh? I mean, hopefully, like I said, like we don't want to. There's no reason to go after the people who were guilty of all this fake shit. We just need to usher them to the exit. And let them live out a life of less attention. Let them engage in their activities with much less attention on the other side of the motherfucking wall. That's what we need to do. Yep. Cardano Universe says all I want IOHK to do is lock myself in a room with giant whiteboards on each wall, like in the movie with Matt Damon and Robin Williams. Yeah, IO does well with the whiteboards. Charles is a whiteboard man for sure. He's our head whiteboard man. All I want IOHK to do is lock himself in a room. Yeah, no, I didn't understand that correctly. Yeah, Charles is our head whiteboard guy. He's our top whiteboard motherfucker. He is. He's our top whiteboard man. Don't be anti-fat or we'll sink you like the Titanic. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest things about the internet being so prevalent now is the conspiracy theories are much more widely known. I love it. Blue Mammal says, I vote fuck yes. Yeah, let's go. AI Enthusiast says, let's go. Fuck them. Be real. Yeah, fuck these guys. Fuck these guys that did all this shit. I agree, but we should not go after those guys. We should just usher them to the exit, right? But in my heart of hearts, yeah, I agree. Fuck those guys. Where does one get started in safe? But actually, though, I mean, they created the other thing I keep mentioning though is they create transaction volume for the chain. So it's kind of like they're customers of the blockchain. It's kind of like we're running this bar and they come in and get drunk and do a bunch of stupid bullshit. So you're kind of like, hey, you can come in and buy a few drinks, but don't do your stupid bullshit inside the bar where everybody sees. It's kind of like that. Where does one get started in safe DeFi, RealFi? Robbery Forest is real and scary. I agree. No, I mean, I think we have yet to see what RealFi is going to become, right? John O'Connor and Daniel Patel and that team are going to launch RealFi apparently in 2026. So we're going to see what RealFi becomes. Cardano as a whole has been, insulated in a lot of ways from the robbery forest. We need to see what RealFi becomes. I think DeFi is going to be an important part of RealFi. It's kind of like we're finally going to be using DeFi for what it should have been used for all along. So like I keep saying, I don't blame the people who built the DeFi platforms. They built the rails. We've just been shipping some fucked up cargo on those rails, basically. Beamer House says, yes, please, more unfiltered AOS. That's right. Yeah, no, sorry. I let everybody know at the start of the video, this is the non-carpool video. If you are taking the kids to school in the carpool, turn this shit off. This is not the right video for your carpool. That should be Scott Bessent's next move, ban the Fed. You know, I mean, the Fed, okay, the Fed is basically like, the way I think about the Fed is it's kind of like this powerful trade association. And that trade, banking, it needs to self-regulate in some ways. And it's like a regulation slash communication slash interoperability function. Those things do need to happen. Those things do need to happen. But along with that, there's been a lot of fuckery for sure, which is why Satoshi wrote the motherfucking white paper. Thank you, AI enthusiast. Thank you. I can't even says just one day a week. AOS uncensored Tuesdays. It's got. I mean, it's. I think it's important to be uncensored when it's something really important. Like, just normal news. You know, might be less important. You know, it's like entertaining. It can be entertaining, but when it's something really important, I think it's important to be uncensored. So. AOS uncensored. Yeah. Cardano gets a mushroom on Monday and goes from little Mario brother to big Mario. I like the sounds of that. Let's put 188 in a wallet for every fuck. That'd be a decent amount of ADA for sure. The disrespect. Who decides what is? Yeah, this is exactly the problem. Cardano universe. It's who decides? Who decides? I agree. A lot, you know, some of the stuff will offend the sensibilities of some people, but it's like, who decides? Who decides? Pretty soon, people are going to jail for taking photos with guns in Florida. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a slippery slope. Twig 231 says nothing like driving your Lambo fueled by rugging kids, milk money. I mean, that's basically what's been happening. No, kava kind of chills you out. Some kava can make you. Some people think that, or some people feel an effect of being more chatty when they drink certain types of kava. But kava generally just chills you out, so it would make you more chill. I would argue this is me more chill, to be honest with you. This is like more of a natural chill version of myself. Bindocam says no dick coins on my Christian blockchain. So the cool thing about a permissionless ecosystem is you can, okay, so under the Cardano layerverse concept, you can build layers that make arbitrary compromises on whatever facets, whatever values or metrics of blockchains you can imagine, right? So you could have a totally centralized permissioned layer running in the Cardano layerverse. Like you could have a layer where you're the only validator and you just don't validate the issuance of any dick coins. So you can do that. You can have that, Bindocam. You can totally have that. Or Cardano Universe, you can have that. So this is probably better directed at Cardano Universe. So Cardano Universe in the Cardano layerverse, which is appropriate given your username, you can have your own centralized permissioned layer where you do not validate, you do not include in blocks that you validate the issuance of any coins, the names of which you don't like. So there you go. You can do it. You can totally do it. And there'll probably be a ton of people who agree with you and want to use your layer. Should the base layer ever be that? No, the base layer probably needs to be permissionless, right? That's an important tenet of crypto, but you can have your own layer, your own permission layer like that if you want. Fed was rich people that bailed out the government. Now it's the S&P, no difference. They have the money. Robin Williams was right. They should wear their sponsored jackets. Yeah, that'd be helpful. It'd be helpful if Congress wore sponsor patches at least on their suits, on their suit jackets. Lone Eagle says if you're buying crypto based on names, you should get rug pulled. So I think that's a fair. I think that's I mean, but that's what meme coins were. And it's like, I think, just under the ethos of permissionlessness, we should allow meme coins. What I'm arguing is that we should not give them peak attention, right? The problem was the crypto people gave the meme coins and all the fuckery peak attention because of our own avarice and greed. Um, we were the ones that put them in this high attention spotlight, and that's why we lost the ability to capture the imagination of the mainstream. So it is our own fault. We did this to ourselves. This is a self-inflicted wound. This is a self-inflicted 8-year wound. Now we need to remedy that wound, and the way we do that, like I keep saying, is we send those guys to the other side of the wall. They will always exist. There will always be the boobies coin or the other ridiculous fuckery that can always exist. And I don't want to even single out that coin. I don't know anything about that coin. Maybe maybe there's no fuckery at all involved with that coin. What I'm saying is there is a lot of fake crypto. There has been a lot of fuckery. There have been a lot of Ponzi's. And in a permissionless ecosystem, there's always going to be the potential for that. We need to send outright scams and people stealing from each other. We need to stamp that out, of course. That goes without saying. But all the rest of the fuckery that's not like outright criminal, that's just like a terrible misuse of blockchains, we have to be permissionless, but we need to send those guys to the other side of this wall, right? Let's execute real world transactions. Let's make that the focus of crypto. Let's make that the real thing, and we will recapture the imagination of the masses. Crypto can go back to being that amazing, inspiring thing that we all saw. We all saw a future that included the fruition of Satoshi's dream, Satoshi's vision, right? Even the very phrase Satoshi's vision has been co-opted and corrupted by certain individuals who were engaged. I will argue, I don't want to get sued. That person sues a lot of people, so I won't say anything more about that. But there has been fuckery in crypto. There has been fuckery, and we need to give all that up. We need to give all that up. We need to take the spotlight off all the fuckery, and we need to put the spotlight on the execution of real world transactions. That requires DeFi platforms. It requires the rails we've built. We just need to ship different cargo on those rails, and that cargo should the sort of end of the spur. The cargo should be shipped, shipped to a spur that goes into the real world. It shouldn't be locked on the goddamn chain. Total value locked is part of the problem with crypto, right? It's like we watched in real time as that metric became a thing. It was the wrong metric, right? We shouldn't be locking value on the chain like a bunch of assholes. We should be having the chain touch the real world. That should be the goal. Cardano Universe says, look at it from my eyes, adoption, widespread adoption, meaning global, billions of adoptions. Dude, you can, yeah, I think it's true. Half the population like it clean. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. Like you can build that layer. You can have a permission layer that doesn't allow any bad language on it. You can totally build that layer, and you'll find a lot of people who want to be a part of that layer. There's a reason why Disney is so gigantic, right? You can build you can build the Disney layer of the Cardano layerverse. I'm joking here, but for real, you would have a lot of people who would be like-minded, and you can build that layer in Cardano because it's permissionless, and the people who want, it's like the people who want Elsa can choose your permission layer, and the people who want Joe Rogan can be on the permissionless layer, and I think both are equally valid. I don't think either one is invalid at all. It eclipses because building real value is a slow, methodical process. True. No instant gratification. That's even if it works. Yep. No, I agree. I don't think anybody thinks you are. I don't think anybody thinks you are. I think everybody gets it. I think everybody gets what you're saying, and what you're saying is very valid. I think Cardano would not have been architected correctly if it didn't accommodate both your viewpoint and the viewpoint of people who would require a more permissionless environment. So I think what you're saying is very valid. I can't believe so many people in the Army of Spies were forced to buy meme coins or NFTs. I don't think it was really us. I don't think it was really us, because even when all that stuff was going on, when both those things were going on, I mean, the whole time the NFT craze was going on, I was talking about how we needed functional NFTs that had utility to them, you know, and I would get a ton of messages. It was so funny because they were mirror reflections of each other during the NFT craze. I would just like during the ICO craze, when people would come and talk to me about their bullshit ICOs they were buying into, I would get messages from people, and it was like, "Hey, bro." And they were really good-hearted messages because they were people in the Army of Spies, and people in the Army of Spies, in my experience, are very, very cool. So I'd get these really well-intentioned messages, and they're like, "Hey, bro, I really want you to be a part of blank NFT project." And it was always the ones, you could guess which ones these were. They were the big ones. "I really want you to be a part of this project. We really want to bring you into the community. If I buy you one of the NFTs, will you please consider talking about the community?" And I said no to every single one of those because I didn't believe in it. So there were people, there were definitely people in the Army of Spies who were engaging in some of this stuff, and I don't blame them, because a lot of people, there were some positives to the camaraderie and the feelings of community and the hope, the hopes and dreams, all that stuff. There were some positives to all that, especially with the NFT thing. I think I was so vocal about it during the PFP NFT thing, though, that at least the ones that didn't provide any utility at all, that there's a lot less of it during meme coins. I have gotten a few messages during this last meme coin cycle. I did get a few messages, and people were like, "Hey, how come you never cover blank meme coin thing?" And it was the same thing. They were well-intentioned people, who just wanted me to be a part of this community that they felt so much camaraderie with. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to say no to that every goddamn time. Cardano Universe wants adoption. Fair enough. Microloans are seriously exciting. Wonder when we have that with the Bitcoin DeFi, if we can get the Michael Saylors on the world on board. So that's a tricky question. Can you ever get the Michael Saylors of the world on board for that? So the question becomes whether so obviously we can say that one of the principles for him is Bitcoin maximalism. I think that's fair to say. Somebody tell me if they dispute that, right? Which is fine. But I think we can say Bitcoin maximalism is a maxim for him. And the question becomes, is it about the asset, or is it about the fact that you can't do shit with it? Because once we start doing shit with his precious Bitcoins, he can either be like, "Yo, my maximalism is about the asset, so I'm down with all, with this new bullshit you guys are doing." So differentiating that from the bullshit we were talking about previously, I just mean that bullshit in the generic sense, like stuff. He might say, "I'm down with this new stuff you guys want to do with my Bitcoin," or he can be like, "Nope. The beauty of Bitcoin is that you can't do anything with it. You can't do shit with Bitcoin. That's what I love about it. I love that it's the most non-technologically advanced asset in the crypto world. That's the shit that I love. I'm Michael Saylor. I love that bullshit." He could be like that. I don't know which way he'll go on that, but he's gonna kind of have a choice because he can spin that either way. I have a feeling that yield is going to be motherfucking attractive to Mr. Michael Saylor. I have a feeling that yield is going to be a little bit attractive, but I think keeping custody, whatever level of custody he currently has, keeping that level of custody is also going to be important to him. So a lot of it's going to depend on the custody situation, but I could see him spinning that either way, because yield is going to be a little bit attractive to Mr. Michael Saylor. So why care about it? Let's let people do what they want, promote the good stuff, and the winners will win. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We have to put the spotlight on the good stuff and not on the fuckery. That's exactly what I'm saying. If Cardano stays where it is in price, do you still think the community would still stay as Cardano supporters or leave? I think we would. So the thing we know for sure is that there will always be volatility in crypto. There will always be volatility. It's not going to stay where it is in price. I mean, even from yesterday to today, I mean, at a certain point today, CMC was showing a 15% 24-hour change in the price. I mean, we haven't even stayed within 15%, as in terms of the outer limits over the last 24 hours. So we know it's going to change. So in that hypothetical world where we become a stable coin at whatever price we're at right now, yeah, sure. I mean, that people would not stay for sure because we would be a stable coin. Binochem says, after I bought at peak Cardano, I was desperate to claw back some value. So I participated in some really dumb stuff. Oh, we all have for sure. I'm not saying anybody's dumb for having bought into the Ponzi's. I mean, I think we all have at some point. If you've been in crypto long enough, you've bought some stupid shit probably. It's like the greed motive, the pecuniary motive is so strong. It's so strong. So it's really hard to not buy into some stupid stuff, right? And part of that is just portfolio theory too. I mean, it's like, back in 2017, it was kind of hard. A lot of people said all the right stuff and just took the ICO funds and walked, right? I mean, there were some people who wrote some great white papers in 2017 and just grabbed the funds and never built a goddamn thing. There were a bunch of those, and it was really hard to differentiate those from like the Cardanos of the world. So, I think we've all had some losses related to some lobster traps. So, yeah, I think everybody's done that. Ada Eclipse says Ada handles is functional. Wonder if they will be mainstream someday. This is a great example of functional NFTs. Really great business model because it's like perpetual. They can always sell an infinite number of ADA handles. It's a genius business model. Obviously, they didn't invent it. We've had many iterations of this in the EVM world. But it's a genius business model. Very, very good use of NFTs. Disney stock was the only stock up yesterday. There you go. Cardano Universe. Dude, do the Elsa layer. Do the Elsa layer in the Cardano layer verse. You can, there's probably, I mean, Disney shows you there are 1 million people. If you do the Elsa layer, there will be 1 million people who will want to do shit with you on the Elsa layer. They just won't call it that. I can't wait to be borrowing. And I'm not saying it'd be bullshit. I'm saying you could do legitimate stuff. It's very valid. I'm saying you could have a permissioned layer like that, and you could do a lot of valid stuff there. I can't wait to be borrowing all these microloans from you all and not pay them back. See, this is the part of crypto. This is the part of crypto culture we should never change. This irreverence. I would be so disappointed if we ever lost this. This I want to continue to exist. This to me is not fuckery. This is just good humor. I appreciate this. Michael, I'm guessing, I believe this is a reference to Michael Saylor. Michael has changed positions to suit whatever needs he has in the present. Yeah, I mean, Michael Saylor has done a good job dropping some good sound bites, like the cybernetic hornets thing. He's dropped some good sound bites, but he wasn't exactly an early comer to that position. Michael Saylor wasn't around in the early days of Bitcoin. I mean, he wasn't around in the sense that he was like a publicly known Bitcoin maximalist in the early days. I never saw Michael Saylor's ass until much later on. And then he did a great job of ascending to this like peak position of occupying like, uber maximalist positioning. He did a great job. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling it'll be really interesting when we get to that point where Mr. Saylor is confronted with the possibility of yields. That's gonna be interesting. Hey, you want to name a token? Okay. I just want something that gets us away from the TradFi, and that's a G. That's a G. I just learned that. Yeah, it's a G instead of a K. Cardano seems to be the only one. I'd imagine in the future our DID would be linked. Oh, so our digital identity would be linked to our lending history, and we'd have some sort of decent credit score. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's gonna be a big part of RealFi. A big part of the RealFi that's already going on You know, like Charles has talked about a really high repayment rate on his loans. If I remember correctly, I won't try to. I'll mess it up if I try to quote the number, but he's mentioned in AMAs in the last 6 months, he's mentioned a really, really high number for repayment rate. So, I mean, I think the first thing, if you're building out RealFi, if you're building out loans in RealFi, the first thing you build out is some notion of credit. So I think that's like the first thing you do. And obviously, you know, I mean, it works the way it has to work the way you think it works. People are capable of getting really small loans. And then if they default on those, then they're, you know, it impairs their ability to get bigger loans. But if they pay off a whole bunch of smaller loans, and they can get bigger and bigger loans. So just like normal credit. So I think that's right. So this is the comment I was responding to there. I think he might be open to lending his Bitcoin. Maybe he will use Cardano Bitcoin DeFi. Yeah, that's what we're hoping, right? We're hoping. So, especially if it is sold on the surface as not leaving the BTC ecosystem. Yep, I think that's true. For the maximalist, that's important. Sailor is a trip. Yep, that's a little, it's true in a punny sense also. Makes sense to create links with Coinbase in conjunction with BTC DeFi. They custody all the big BTC accounts, yield, baby yield. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with Coinbase is those motherfuckers are ambitious. So I like them. I like Armstrong and Paul Graywall and all those guys. I like Coinbase. I think they get vilified needlessly a lot, but there's some ambitious motherfuckers. And if they see us doing good shit with RealFi, they'll just build out their own fucking RealFi. They'll do base RealFi or some bullshit. They'll give us some bullshit name like that. But yeah, don't. It would be a mistake to not expect them to just swagger jack us on RealFi, because I think they will swagger jack our RealFi if they see any value in it whatsoever. Thomas Kirkpatrick says he fits a lot of criteria for having primary psychopathy. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that's a lot of CEOs. I think a lot of CEOs. One time, a guy. I'm not gonna give you too much detail here, but if I give you the details, it's even funnier. But one time, a guy I worked really closely with, was a CEO of a. I won't tell you what kind of company, but he he this somebody came up to him and they wanted him to go to this conference. Somebody in our company was organizing, was involved in the organization of like a CEO conference, like this conference that only CEOs would go to. And this CEO was like, fuck no, those guys are a bunch of psychos. Literally, that was his response. Like, no hesitation, just like, fuck no, I will not go to a conference of other CEOs because they're always fucking psychos. That was his response. He himself, of course, was a CEO, and he was also accused of psychopathy by some of our coworkers, you know, at various stages, like any CEO is going to be. But I don't think that person was a psycho, to be honest. But I think he was right about a lot of psychos. I think he was right to avoid, you know, a concentration of CEOs for exactly that reason. Lone Eagle says, if you look back, Amazon was asking for donations per transaction because it cost them more than what they charge per transaction. Somebody brought that up. Maybe it was you. Somebody brought that up in the last couple episodes. Super interesting historical note. I can't remember back in those days. I probably wasn't buying enough books on Amazon. I think I was more of a Barnes and Noble kind of book buyer back in those days, or, you know, sort of like the local equivalent of that. So I probably didn't experience that as much because I was still going to the bookstore, I think, in those days. Why does RealFi need a token? So I don't know. We're gonna find out. And who knows? Maybe it doesn't, and they're doing it anyways. And, you know, maybe that's problematic. Who knows? We don't know yet. We just don't have any of the details yet. So I want to be open-minded. I imagine they're gonna come up with some good utility for the token. You know, maybe it'll be governance. Maybe it'll be governance of RealFi. You know, I could see that. Like, obviously, there'll be some things that need to be decided. And if it's not a centralized project, then there will need to be some kind of on-chain governance. You know what I mean? So that's a reason to have a token right there. If you want uncensored AOS on Tuesday, comment with AOS Uncensored Tuesdays. I guess Coinbase has wrapped ADA for base now. Yeah. I was kind of sad to see that happen. we'll end with the same song as normal, but not an inappropriate pick by you. I'm saying your pick is not inappropriate. Sailors at critical stages now. Yeah, we've been talking about him lately. His new fiat fund. He's got to take care of the preferred equity dividends. So yeah, I'm sure he hoped he'd never be doing anything like that. Hopefully he doesn't use the market to death spiral. All right, guys, we've gone for over 2 hours. Like I said, apologies if you're super pissed at me right now because of the very candid off the cuff language in this episode. I apologize. Even if you're mad at me, I'm not mad at you. I think you're being mad at me is probably valid, but I wanted to be very, very authentic and uncensored in this video because I think it's a really important topic. Like, as much as it's kind of funny to talk on an uncensored basis about something like this, I really do think this is a very important topic. We really need to do this shit. Like, this is not some bullshit. We need to do this. We need to stop with all the fuckery, usher those guys to the exit, usher them to the exit. And we need to start thinking about like real metrics, like whatever acronym you want, but real world transactions that we actually execute, not locking value on the chain like a bunch of assholes. We need to do real world transactions that touch the real world. We need to execute those transactions on the chain in the hopes of more efficiently allocating capital in the motherfucking world. That's what we need to do. So thanks, Adrian. Who is Adrian? Are you thinking one of the other commenters? Bindocam, hands, yellow, heart red. Dorian, thanks for joining. I know it's early your time, so thank you very much for joining it, Dorian. I appreciate it. Law Eagle says, fuck off. Have a good night. Thanks. Peace. M. Mar says, thanks, AOS. Fuck you, chat. Thanks, AOS. Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you're looking forward to a good rest of the week. And I hope we can pull this off. We need to fucking pull this off. So please, everybody, if you agree with me that this is something we need to do, just, tell people about it. Tell people about it on X. Just be like, hey, why don't we stop with all the fuckery and do real world shit? You can just say that to people. It turns out Elon won't do anything to you. You can say shit like that now on X because Elon owns it, and they don't censor you. Nobody gets mad at you. Back in the day, they probably would have censored your ass. But now that Elon's running shit, you can say whatever the fuck you want. So yeah, if you agree with this, just tell people that on when they tell you about the latest meme coin shit, just tell them like, hey, that's a bunch of fuckery. Why don't we do real world shit instead? That would be a great way to help out. But I hope everybody's having a great week, and I will talk to you soon.